Hi, this is Jonathan Pettit from Purdue's Center on Religion and Chinese Society. This video documents the last stop of our study abroad tour in China, Shanghai, and some surrounding cities in Zhejiang province. So we arrived in Shanghai and visited the shopping districts the first night. And early the next morning, we made a trek up to the north side of the city to Shanghai University, pictured here. It's a very beautiful campus. We had a really great workshop with students in the departments of sociology and history at Shanghai University. Talked about the geospatial study of Chinese religions and how to set up a database of religious sites. After that, we went with some students and Professor Shen, pictured here, to some nearby temples. So this is a Buddhist temple right next to Shanghai University, and the nuns were preparing for Shakyamuni Buddha's birthday, which was the following day, making various flower arrangements. Then we visited the Baoshan Temple further north, the northern part of Shanghai. This is a new temple built with about $30 million worth of sandalwood. The entire temple is made of wood. It's very impressive. The following day, we traveled from Shanghai to Hangzhou. So in addition to some of the traditional street fairs and sites, we visited some churches and Buddhist monasteries in Hangzhou. There's a recently built church on the downtown streets of Hangzhou. The biggest site we went to is the Ling Monastery. So it has a lot of famous stone carvings of Buddhist figures. Many of them were destroyed during the Cultural Revolution. In fact, most of them were. So you see here, the heads are missing from the bodies of these statues. But a lot of the religious practices have been revived, and thousands and thousands of visitors a day. So we kind of went around to document some of the more touristy sites, the Buddhist temples that are present in Hangzhou. Hangzhou is one of the biggest tourist destinations in China, so it's not surprising that the nearby religious sites would also be tourist destinations. Nevertheless, it's interesting to see devotional groups, very typical tour groups dressed in the same clothes on the bus that are going around the temple, usually from the same town. The next day we went to a equally large Buddhist temple, but not as much of a tourist destination, about 20 kilometers east of Hangzhou. So this is the Toshida Heaven Monastery. And there were a lot of people there, but less tourists and more devotees of this particular temple that had probably come from nearby villages. So that day, this was the Buddha's birthday, and they were doing a fangsheng, again, as we've seen in previous videos, taking the fish and eels and turtles and other animals and releasing them into the river. So here you see Buddhist monks that are leading mostly women, lay followers, through a ritual where they go before the statue and then go back to prostrate themselves. So that was a very fun to see. And here's the Buddha's birthday, drinking rose water in the temple. As a lot of the bigger monasteries in this area, they have cafeterias where you can have a vegetarian meal as you're going through the monastery. So this is a great time to see kind of a temple that's being built. So here are some of there are about 4 different areas of the temple under construction. You see at the far right of this picture is a site that has just the foundation laid. So in another 10 years, this will surely be a very large, well-known Buddhist temple. But as of yet, not many folk. The following day went to the Xiedo Monastery. So this is supposedly the birthplace of the Maitreya Buddha, the Bodai Heshang, a 10th century large Buddhist practitioner that was said to be Maitreya Buddha, the future Buddha. So this is his birthplace and kind of place of residence when he was a monk. This was completely razed during the Cultural Revolution, so this entire site was built within the past 10 to 15 years. And they have very good documentation of the various donors that contribute to this temple. So we talked a lot about that, and a professor from nearby, Ningbo, came and took us to lunch at the monastery. And after that, we traveled to the King Ashoka Monastery, also outside of Ningbo, about 10 kilometers outside of Ningbo. And this is Lots of people at this temple, but very few tourists. All um, lay practitioners of Buddhism that had come for the afternoon chanting of the sutra, which you heard at the beginning of this video. And there's, the whole site. It's a very old site, supposedly built in the late 5th century. So a lot of lakes and other things around it. And we finished on the very last day of our tour at the Zhejiang Cathedral outside of Shanghai. This is one of the most famous and largest Catholic sites in China. We met with one of the people at the seminary nearby the Zhejiang Cathedral. He took us on a tour of the site, and it's in May in China is a great time to see Catholic sites because there are pilgrims everywhere. Um, so we got to see a lot of things in action, and ended up the day at the seminary that's nearby the Zhejiang Cathedral. So this used to be a seminary for between 80 to 100 students. Unfortunately, the government shut it down a few years ago. So now there are 0 students, but it'll be interesting to see if that comes back to life in the next few years. And after the cathedral, we went to the airport and took off back for the U.S. So that completes our tour of China, and we look forward to do it again next year. If you would like to participate or have more questions, feel free to contact us.